Truly the best over here in front of the stage. If you'd like to hear some tips and tricks when it comes to creating the best barbecue at home in your own backyard, these gentlemen know exactly what it takes, not only on a professional, a company, and a competition level, but truly just things you can do at home that are very accessible to create your own award-winning barbecue. So I'm talking about the one and only Speed Herrig from Cookies Seasoning and Sauces, some amazing barbecue there. But also a new friend we've made here today and someone who definitely knows what he's talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Joe Osbrink as well. Speed and Joe here to talk about all things you want to know. And as you can see, they have some very delectable cuts of meat in front of them, courtesy of Brookwood Farms, who is a sponsor here today, providing the meat to all of our 29 competitors. But so we thought it was important, if the competitors are using it, it's good enough for you at home as well. But we want to start in the rib category over here. Speed, talk about what you have in front of you and what you can truly do at home to create some amazing ribs.
Well, thank you, Jackie. I'll tell you what, this hog was grinning when they were pulling the ribs off it, knowing that he's going to get a little cookies flavor enhancer and a little barbecue sauce on it. That was one of the happiest hogs I've ever seen. I'll tell you what I like to do now, this here happened to be a back rib, and as I mentioned in our seminar earlier, you used to get 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 and down back ribs, but they're butchering so much larger hogs today. You're lucky to get probably 2 1/2 and downs, which that's what the rack of ribs weighs. But I'll tell you what, they're still mighty tasty, and barbecue and ribs, and Joe will relate to this too. It's real easy. It's not hard work. Needless to say, we do about 500 racks of ribs every week. We're in a grocery store someplace in the Midwest, and we'll do about 300 to 400 or 500 pounds of pulled pork. But take a rack of ribs like this. I prefer back ribs over the St. Louis spares. Spares take about another hour to cook, and we're cooking, like I say, 500. We just finished off this week. We were over at a store in Marion, Iowa, and we did 592 racks, and they were all back ribs. But again, the spares take about another hour to each load, and when you're doing 4 or 5 loads, that makes quite a difference. But throw them in the smoker, bone side down. We sprinkle a light coating of our flavor enhancer and all-purpose seasoning on them, which has got no MSG in it. Just give it a light coating. Don't. Some people put way too much on. Just put a nice light coating on there. Throw them in your smoker. Run your smoker at 250, 275. It's not rocket scientist. I mean, just let it sit there in about 2 hours, and you want to take and check the temperature for the meat between the bones. You don't want to hit the bone, but we like to get them up to around 185. And 185, and they're nice and tender then we go ahead and glaze them with our sauce. Back in the smoker again, and your smoker's running 250, say, it don't make any difference. You can throw them in there for 15 minutes. You want to throw them in there for another half an hour. Not a big deal. But they'll come off of there. You don't have to wrap them in foil or anything. And a lot of people say, do you pull the membranes? We don't pull the membranes off because, to each their own. But if you think I'm going to pull the membrane off of 500 racks of ribs every week, you're wrong. I mean, I know I look a little slow and stupid, but really I am. I mean, looks aren't deceiving. But no, we never pull it. And our theory is leaving that membrane on there keeps the juice in there, and the ribs will be a lot juicier, And when you get done cooking, that membrane, there's really nothing left of it. It just basically disappears. A St. Louis spare will have a little more fat to it, and if that's the flavor you're going for, use them. They're both mighty tasty, But I like to do it. And if you're doing ribs, you want to just do them on a grill. Lay a piece of foil down, throw your rack of ribs on top of it, season it lightly with a little bit of flavor enhancer, then put either a little bit of crushed pineapple or pineapple juice on it, and then seal it up with that foil. Put it on your grill. Have your grill running about 250, 275. Check it in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And again, the old thermometer, but you'll be about 185 then, and then leave it open. And then I like to use our sweet hickory barbecue sauce It's got pineapple juice concentrate in it, and just glaze the top of the ribs with that. Let it sit there for about a half an hour, and damn good ribs right off your grill. And the same thing, you know, if you want to do them, if you don't have, it's wintertime or something, you want to do them in your oven, what I like to do is throw a can of beer in there with it, drink the other 11, you know how that goes. Buy a 12-pack, you know, invite your only friend over to the end of the can, you know. But dump a can of beer on them and steam them in that, and you make some good ribs right in the oven. If you want to take them out, then I put them under the broiler if you want, or just in the oven, but under the broiler and kind of dry them out a little bit. Sauce them, have your oven at 200, let them sit in there for half an hour, and you got good ribs again. So, I mean, it's people make too much work out of it. I mean, ribs are easy to cook and fun to cook. And for our pulled pork, we use a cut that's it's not easy to find, but it's called boneless rib ends. And what it is, it's the sirloin end of the loin. It's the red meat. You don't have near as much waste. And we season that, smoke it, take it up to 185, well actually 165. Then we bag it and put it in a holding oven at 180 and leave it in there for about 6 hours. When you open that bag up, that meat just fall apart tender. And then of course we kiss with the nectar of the gods cookies barbecue sauce. But you know, and I've got a couple thermometers up here. Again, if you can guess my age within 100 or weight within 200 pounds, why, we'll give you one of the thermometers till I run out. And Joe, I'm about empty of BS, which is barbecue sauce. That's what you were thinking. So, Joe, why don't you give him a few words of wisdom?
So that's covering ribs with Speed Herrig, and if you have more questions or more knowledge there, we can definitely get to that. But yes, we want to get over here to Joe, who has a loin and a particular cut of meat known as the butt. Talk about your specialty with this and how to make this flavorful.
Yeah, so I've got the boneless pork loin here. This is going to be a leaner piece of pork, not a whole lot of fat. I mean, there's a little bit of fat here, but that's just a thin layer on the top. The pork loin actually is part of the back rib as well. On the back ribs, you get a little piece of loin on top of that. But this is the full piece here. It's got a little fat cap on the back. And then over here we got the meat side. Again, pretty lean piece of meat. There's a little bit of fat content in this one. You want to look for fat content when you're looking at meat. There's a lot of flavor and fat. You don't want super thick fat, maybe like this, but this fat that you see inside the meat here, these little lines of fat, those are the kind of things that you're looking for. Pork loin, same kind of thing. You can do it in the oven, you can do it on a smoker, you can do it on the grill. You know, you can do it low and slow, maybe 225, or you can go hot and fast, 275, 300. You know, you can, personal preference, if you want to take some of this little bit of fat here that's on here off, you can do that. I would say if you're cooking it low, you would probably be okay taking the fat off. But if you're cooking it at a higher temp, you probably want to leave some of that so that protects the meat. So then also here I've got a pork butt. This comes from a shoulder of a hog, regardless of what the name is. It's got a pretty significant fat cap on top. You want to take some of that down. You want to leave a little bit to protect the meat, but you want to take a little bit of that down. There's a few different muscles inside of a pork butt. So right up front here on the opposite side of the bone is going to be what we call the money muscle in competition barbecue. They kind of call it that because if you cook it right at a competition, you're in the money usually. That's why they call it that. It's going to be the most tender part of the butt. So if you cook that right, that's where most of the fat is in here. If you cook that right, it turns out really well. Same thing, oven, smoker, probably maybe not like a grill, but oven or smoker is good for this. You know, same thing, low and slow or hot and fast. If you're going 225, you're looking probably 8-12 hours to get it finished. If you're going 275, 300, you probably get it done about 6 hours. So if I'm going low and slow, I typically don't wrap it. I'll spritz during the cook. I'll spray it with a little apple juice. But if I'm cooking 275 to 300, once I can touch the meat and no rub comes off on my finger, then I'll wrap it in some foil. You're going to lose some of the bark that way, but if you wrap it with, you put some apple juice inside the foil, that's going to soak a lot of that flavor up and make it pretty moist. So at home I don't inject, but for a competition I definitely would. We had a question earlier today about brining. Brining a pork butt too, I think that could definitely work. You could brine it for 4 hours, set it in some brine, or just, if you want to inject it, just kind of shoot it all over the meat. Apple juice would be a good thing to inject it with. There's some commercial injection products that you can do, but just straight apple juice would be good, or pineapple juice. Like Speed said, there's enzymes in the pineapple juice that'll kind of break stuff down in here and make it a bit more tender.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, I know you have more knowledge to give to this great crowd, and you mentioned it briefly, Speed, but if there's one thing, if we have, amateurs and professionals, if there's one thing that you're saying you have to make sure you have the best barbecue, what would that be and why?
I tell you what, you can't really cook or shouldn't cook without a good thermometer. And this is one of the dial type, and I prefer the digital, but either one, you want to make sure pork, like when we're doing our loins, we take them up to our smoker about to 138 and then hold them, and they'll climb up to the 145, and that's the temperature you want it at. I just panic when I see people cooking pork up to 160, 170, 180. If you're trying to get new soles for your shoes or something, that'd be great, but if you're going to eat it, keep it down in that 145 range. But I'll tell you what, something that I've had a lot of fun with, take a center cut pork loin and then take like a slicing knife and run right through the center of it, and then cock a little bit sideways and pull it back out, and then take rope sausage and poke holes in it and slide that rope sausage right in the center of that loin, and then sprinkle a little of our seasoning and a little bit of brown sugar on the top of it, and you can either oven roast it or put it in your smoker. But I've had more fun. You get nervous when people start shaking their head. Yes, because I said it's especially Iowa bred hog. It's got the sausage bred right in the middle of the loin. And they're sitting there shaking their head. Yeah, they go, oh no, wait a minute here. But I'll tell you what, you slice that off, and you got that ring of that smoked sausage right in the middle of it, and it looks nice, and the flavor from that smoked sausage goes out into that loin, and I'll tell you what, it's to die for.